PS1 Top 20. Spyro the Dragon is a great game for the PS1. Definitely a top choice on picking up, in my opinion. It has great graphics, great music. The storyline is cute, your typical save the world-esque type adventure. But there's plenty to do, from saving dragons, torching enemies, collecting gems, as well as traveling to distant worlds to defeat Nasty Nork, the one who's enslaved all of the dragons in the game. Next up is Crash Bandicoot. This is another game that I originally got when I first got my PS1, and it's another classic, I feel, right up there with Spyro. This one's a more linear, start and finish type game, but there are different areas of the game that provide a lot of variety. You'll be able to go around on a jet ski, ride around on a tiger, ride around on dinosaurs, motorcycles. There's a lot of variety in the game, and you'll find it very fun to play. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. What is there to say about this game that hasn't been said before? This is a fantastic addition to the Resident Evil series, and personally one of my favorites. This was the first one I was ever able to beat as a kid, and I'm not saying much now, but I think the graphics were pretty awesome at the time, and better than Resident Evil 2. It does have slightly better voice acting, which isn't so bad on your ears this time around. And I feel like there's a lot of variety in the game, as far as who you can play, weapons, and even costumes if you beat it correctly. If you like putting some lead in a zombie's head, pick up this classic for the PS1, and you will not be disappointed at all. Gran Turismo 2 is on my list for a number of reasons. A, the intro gets you ready to start driving. B, this is a lot better than Gran Turismo 1 in terms of how many cars they offer, how many modifications they offer, how many tracks, and how many races they offer. I needed 2 separate memory cards for mine, because I had one entire memory card dedicated to American cars, and another one dedicated to Japanese cars. This game ate up my hours of gameplay, and I'm pretty sure if you're into racing, that simulation style, you'll definitely enjoy this game too. The graphics are definitely dated, being on the PlayStation 1, but it's still nice to go back and enjoy it. Who can resist the 90s and early 2000s jams that are on this? Makes you feel like you're in an elevator sometimes, but it's still fun. Now with Syphon Filter, this is the first introduction to a shooter game that I had at the time, or at least one of those stealth, realistic type ones. I was always into the fantasy horror kinds, but for whatever reason, Syphon Filter really got me interested. It was stealthy, it was kind of lifelike at the time, and the cheesy voice acting was just priceless. It kind of reminded me, in a way, of 007 on the N64. If you own a PlayStation and haven't heard of or played these games, you must be living under a rock. The Twisted Metal series is a fantastic line of games, and honestly, I can't really narrow all of them down specifically, so I just chose the second one for the sake of it being the sequel and having slightly perfected what the first one had to offer, while still being slightly original. You go around, you blow shit up. It's great. It's like Destruction Derby. Now, Tomb Raider is a game that I never really played much as a kid. I actually only ever played it on my demo CDs, but those few moments that I actually got to play it were fantastic. I did rent it from the video game store a couple times. Though I didn't get far in it, I found it to be a great action adventure game, and at the time there was nothing like it. You really felt like you were in the game and exploring. So the PlayStation really was ahead of its game here. And not to mention you play as a badass chick. Doesn't get much better than that. Talk about putting female power first. There are many in the series to this game, but I decided to put the first one in the list because it was the game changer at the time. This is what made everybody become fans of the genre and make the genre what it is today, as well as the series of Tomb Raider itself. This game goes across many platforms now, and I still find the originals to be the best. Test Drive 5 is probably my first racing game I ever had for the system, but unlike Gran Turismo, this is more of an arcade driving style, and it's a lot more laid back. It allows cheats and passwords to unlock cars, levels, and just generally make your playtime more enjoyable. When I wanted to just kick back, hear some awesome rock tunes, and play with some supercars, this is definitely what I put into my system. There is a 6th version, but for whatever reason, I never found it as enjoyable as the 5th. The 5th holds a special place in my heart, and if you're a gearhead, I can see it taking a special place in yours as well. Legend of Legaia. I'm not an RPG person. I mean, aside from the original Zeldas and Pokemon, you will really never catch me playing one. And that's weird to be a video gamer and not like them. But, hey, that's just me. One of the few RPGs, aside from the ones I mentioned, that I actually do play is Legend of Legaia. I don't know what got me into this game, but one of the PlayStation demo CDs I had it in it, and I couldn't stop playing. To this day, I still don't know what draws me to it, but I went out and I wound up buying the full game, and while I still haven't beaten it, as far as I've progressed, I gotta say, it's really enjoyable and makes me kind of want to give other RPGs a try. The graphics are pretty good, all considering. They're pretty polygonal, but they're not, in a sense, too realistic like the Resident Evil games tried to be, so it aged much better. Now, Driver is one of those games I feel that is like Grand Theft Auto 3, but without even being on the PlayStation 2. And being able to kill hookers, but that's besides the point right now. In Driver, you got to be a wheelman, and run away from the police, and do missions to avoid getting caught, and basically a mix between Transporter and, I don't want to say Fast and the Furious, but I can't think of anything else right now to compare it to. And it's so worth picking up. I know there's a sequel, but I feel that the first one was done way better. And yeah, go get it, guys. Not much else to say there. Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit is the first installment of all of the Hot Pursuit games. This is the first time where players were able to play as the cop, chasing the bad guys, although I know a lot of people that prefer to just continue being the bad guys getting chased. Me, I use Driver for being the bad guy and getting chased. I always liked playing the cop and pulling over all of the speeders, because it was new at the time. And the cop cars were freaking awesome. A lot of them were supercars like Lambos, Porsches, Ferraris, etc. So you actually held a good chance of catching the people that were actually speeding. Unlike in Grand Theft Auto, where the cops are in wannabe Crown Vics and you're in a supercar. I find this to be a really good game in the series, and I'm glad they decided to come out with such a concept. It's grown and has become even stronger today. Metal Gear Solid. I mean, I know the series is old, dating as far back as the MSX computer and the Famicom and NES, but this is the game that most people remember. This is the game that most people have played first, believe it or not. And for myself, this is also the first game in the series I've played, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I loved the new stealth, hiding in boxes, smoking cigarettes, and just being an overall stealthy badass. All games at that point were point and shoot, kill that guy on screen immediately, where this one you had to take your time, not get caught, and save the day. It's spawned many memes, sequels, and more. If you don't pick it up and try it, you're seriously missing out on a really important chunk of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Why doesn't this game get any fucking love? Dino Crisis for the PS1 is a masterpiece made by Capcom that came out around the same time as Resident Evil 3. Now, for whatever reason this never caught on, it's beyond me. Who doesn't want to go around shooting dinosaurs? This is like the Jurassic Park game we all wanted as kids and never got. And when we finally got it, we treated it like a piece of crap. I think everybody needs to go back and try and rescue the world from Dr. Kirk, who's going and making these genetically engineered dinosaurs that are killing people on the island. It's up to you to stop it. Also up to you to go and buy this game. And shoot dinosaurs. Yeah, dinosaurs! Man, the PS1 is just full of these horror survivor games. And you know what? Almost every single one of them are friggin' fantastic. Silent Hill 1 is no different. This is the beginning of an amazing franchise. Almost similar to Resident Evil, where you have to save yourself from zombie-like creatures, you feel a lot more helpless, whereas you start out with a stick, more or less, to defend yourself. It really makes you feel helpless, like you have no idea. Back in the day when you were a kid sitting in the dark playing this and something popped out, you would shit yourself 7 times more than you would in Resident Evil, because all you had was a stick and a flashlight. Come on, let's see you be a badass and beat this game. Yep. Here's another one. Parasite Eve. This is a game where you go around in New York City trying to fight your way to stop the crazy cell division going on in everybody's bodies. It's essentially a virus that took over everyone and transformed them into monsters. And it's up to you to track down Eve, the reason that this is all started. Think of it as you have to go kill Dracula to stop all of your vampire friends from staying vampires forever. Just in a lot scarier fashion. Now, the battling system is very odd. It's almost like an RPG, so it takes some getting used to. So be prepared for that. Aside from getting around the fighting system, the gameplay can be a little slow at first, but once you get past the beginning, forget it. It's all on, balls to the wall. I don't want to say zombie killing, we'll say mutant killing craziness. So, I suggest picking it up. Even if you don't play it, watching the introduction for this can blow your mind every time. Destruction Derby Raw is a game that I can almost compare to Twisted Metal in a sense. You go around and you smash each other's cars to pieces. I mean, there are mini games of sorts where you can create your own levels of stunts that you can do with your Destruction Derby car. However, the fun of it is in smashing the opponent's cars until it can't race anymore and you can take first. It's pretty much that simple, guys. Nothing else to it. If you want a simple, mindless game with better controls than Twisted Metal, this is it. Man, I noticed there's a lot of violent games in my list. I swear to you guys, I'm a very peaceful person. Usually. But anyway, Road Rash 3D is a great game for the PS1 that brings you back to the old days of Road Rash on the Genesis and the arcade cabinets. You go around on your motorcycle competing for first place while beating the shit out of anyone that gets near you with a crowbar, your feet, fists, or any other weapon you come across. It's really that simple, everyone. But goddamn is it addicting. There's nothing like taking that lead pipe and whacking the opponent in his face just to steal his place. And if you feel the same way, any of the Road Rashes will be good. But since we're talking about PS1, pick up Road Rash 3D, and you will be enjoying your way through it the entire time. Medieval is one of those games that I actually only tried out on the demo discs that I got, but often rented from the video game store. You play as a skeleton who comes back to life after 100 years or so of fighting his arch nemesis, only to find out he's returned and is causing havoc again. So you gotta go through each level, complete certain tasks, collect energy, and make sure you don't die. I love the graphic design in it. It's just so cartoony and cute. Well, not necessarily cute, but really, really nice to look at, and it aged very well despite being on the PlayStation 1. You can still make out everything really easy. Nothing looks too pixelated and blocky. WWF Warzone for the PlayStation 1. That's right, I said WWF, not WWE. This game is fairly old, as you can tell by the title, and when you start the game, you'll tell by the roster that you get. But it's a good roster nonetheless. WWF Warzone is your typical brawler. You got cage matches, weapon matches, regular ring matches, and all your favorite WWF superstars of the era, as well as being able to make your own fighter. Now get in there and get a count of 3 pin. Ah, good old Grand Theft Auto 2. Where would I be without you? Hell, where would Rockstar Games be without you guys? This top-down version of the game is the last one you'd get with this view before the third installment on the PlayStation 2. Doesn't mean it's any less enjoyable, though. You still get to go and mow down cops, squirt pedestrians with the fire hose of the fire truck, and just cause all-around chaos around town. Could you imagine the look on parents' faces if they saw the current Grand Theft Auto back in this day and age? If they thought this was bad, they'd fucking have an aneurysm with the new ones. It's well worth picking up just for the nostalgia trip.